This is a poem called A Breath of Fresh Air from a new collection just out, Where Death Goes. A breath of fresh air. A breath of fresh air sailed over the highest mountain peak and down into the valley, enjoying its nonchalant pace over grassy plains as green as unripe apples. And the breath of fresh air turned with the prevailing current through a massive gorge, and just above a river where tumultuous waters, as they hurled over rocks, resembled storm clouds, though no storm was brewing. And the breath of fresh air saw a city ahead, and pulled itself tighter, though no less fresh, as it looped in a little air pocket for a short while, which slowed its pace and gave it some rest, so that when it began again toward the city, it was going at a much more leisurely rate, and could really take its time over outlying fields and across meandering herds of sheep and goats that never even looked up to see the fresh breath of air pass overhead. And the breath of fresh air descended slowly as it passed the first thatched cottages dotted almost haphazardly along the hills, and it skimmed along their brown roofs and lifted a little as it headed toward a more concentrated cluster of buildings and streets, and now some converging streets down below, and traffic and even noise like its memory of ocean surf. And the breath of fresh air pulled itself more tightly together over children's playgrounds and a group of people sitting and eating under a tree, which the breath of fresh air slowly circulated around, admiring the massive trunk filtering past each shapely leaf. And the breath of fresh air from the icy peak in the far distance over the horizon finally sailed through an open window in a tallish building with green shutters, where a sweet maiden was sitting at a computer getting drowsy after a long morning typing statistics, and as she turned her head and yawned, the breath of fresh air sailed happily into her mouth and down her throat into her filigreed lungs, and she didn't know why exactly. Maybe it was the mystery of yawning, but she suddenly felt uncannily refreshed, and her topaz-colored eyes glittered for a moment, almost seeing the last few rivering miles of movement the breath of fresh air had taken to its momentary dark destination in her blood.